Today we are going to talk about section 1.5 from geometry, and it's describing angle pairs. So we're going to identify five new angle pairs that you're going to need to know. And those five pairs are complementary angles, supplementary angles, adjacent angles, linear pairs, and vertical angles. All right, so let's describe a couple of these. So all the definitions are in the book if you guys want to look up the actual definition and write it down. I'm not going to write any of them down on this video. So what complementary angles are? Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Any two angles that add up to 90 degrees are complementary angles. Supplementary angles are any two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So any two angles that add up to 180 degrees are supplementary angles. Adjacent angles. What an adjacent angle is, it's any two angles that share a common side and a common vertex. So I'm going to draw a picture of that one because I think that one's a little bit trickier to understand. So adjacent angles are any two angles. So let's call this A, B, and C, and we'll call that D. I'll make my A look a little bit better. So A, B, C, D here. So we have two angles. My angle A, B, D is adjacent. Oh, if I spelled adjacent right, that'd be better too, right? Is adjacent to angle DBC. Now what you have to look at is they share a common vertex. The common vertex is your point there. That's your common vertex. And they share a common side. Here's my common side that they share there. BD is what they share. That means that they are adjacent. They're right next to each other. All right, so name two of each pairs of angles. So complementary angles. Remember, complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Well, the easiest one here is going to be, well, here's 90 degrees down here, right? So what two angles make that? Well, the angle JIL and angle, that's the actual 90 degree angle. But the two that make it are angle JIK and angle KIL. Now we have another one that's harder to see over here. If I take 75 degrees and I add it to 15 degrees, doesn't that equal 90 degrees? Yeah, it does. So my angle HGI and my angle ABC, those are also complementary. Now notice that those two are nowhere near each other. They are far away from each other, but they are still complementary because they add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles. Well, the easy one again to see is going to be over here, where this angle plus this angle equal 180 degrees. So let's do that one first. Angle HIJ and angle JIL. Again, the harder one to see is the one that aren't connected. Angle HGI plus CBD. Those guys are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. So angle HGI, I wrote it right, said it wrong, and angle CBD. Those are supplementary. Again, they're harder to see because they're not right next to each other, but they are definitely supplementary because they add up to 180 degrees. So I need to name two of each pair of adjacent angles. Remember, adjacent angles share a vertex, that endpoint, and they share a common side. So I'm going to look right here. I know that I is a shared endpoint and IK is the shared side. Let's try to draw that line better on there. Shared side to my other two angles, JIK and LIK. So angle JIK and angle LIK. All right. Well, we also have two other ones that are congruent here. We have adjacent, KIJ and JIH. Those ones would also be adjacent. Could also look at HIJ and JIL. Those would also be adjacent. But I'm going to point out the one over to the right here, CBA and CBD are also adjacent. I'm not going to write all those down because I saw you guys should be listening and you guys can see me do it as well. All right, now we have three more to talk about. that you guys need, or sorry, two more that we need to talk about. We've already talked about a couple of the other ones. The five, so we need to get five total. We've talked about three. So the other two we're going to talk about are linear pairs and vertical angles. Linear pairs. What a linear pair is it's something that makes, if you guys notice the word linear, it makes a straight line. And pair, that means two. That means we have two angles that make a straight line. So if I look here, I'm going to call this A, call that B, call that C, and call that D. That means that angle ABD and angle, that's not an angle, that's an A, angle DBC are linear pairs. They make 180 degrees. They make a supplementary angle. They're supplementary to each other. They don't make a supplementary angle. They're supplementary to each other, and they are adjacent. So the two things that make something a linear pair is that one, they're supplementary angles. And two, they are adjacent angles. They have to be adjacent angles. So they're supplementary and they are adjacent. All right, vertical angles are a little bit more difficult to explain, but they are pretty easy once you understand them. So vertical angles, what they are is they're two angles that are across from each other when two lines intersect each other. So what I mean, okay, well here's my first line, here's my second line. So vertical angles are across from each other. That means if I call this angle 1 and this angle 2, this angle 3, and this angle 4, my vertical angles are, angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical to each other. So angles 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. They are across from each other. And that little symbol over there, that means angles. I'm just being lazy. And angle 2 and angle 4 are also vertical angles. So what it means is when I have two lines that cross each other, they make four angles, at least four angles. And the two angles that are across from each other are vertical angles. So let's go ahead and let's identify some of the pieces down here in this pictures. So linear pairs, let's find linear pairs. We have a number of linear pairs down here. The first one that's easy to see is 1 and 2. Angle 1 and angle 2. You guys can see that they make that straight line. If I could draw better, they would make a straight line. Another straight line is this piece right here. Now we have angles on top and we have angles on bottom. So if we look at that, really we have angle 3 and angle 4 make that line, but also angle 6 and angle 5 also make that line. We have one more straight line that's made, and it's made right there. So that means that 3 and 6 are also linear pairs, and 4 and 5, oh, I forgot my angle on 6 there. Angle 6, and angles 4 and angles 5 are also linear pairs to each other. Vertical angles are a little bit different. I want you to look over here. Do we have any vertical angles? The answer is no, because that line doesn't actually go on any longer. So we have no vertical angles over there. We do, however, have vertical angles in that left picture. These two are vertical angles, so angle 6 and angle 4. And these two are also vertical angles, angle 3 and angle 5. One thing I almost forgot to mention about vertical angles, and I did draw it up here, that you must know about them is vertical angles are congruent. They are congruent. That means that they are the same measure. The angles are the same measure. So let's go over into this picture. This picture is a little bit trickier to see some of these things, so I want to name one. I'm just going to name one of them. I'm not going to name all of them because I think you guys can do more of them. Linear pairs. Remember the word pairs. It's a linear, but it's pairs. That means it can only be two angles. A lot of people are going to say 1, 2, and 3 are linear pairs. Well, that's not a pair. That's a trio. So those are not linear pairs. Linear pairs are only going to be two numbers that make a straight line. And that's going to be angle 5 and angle 4. Complementary angles. That means they add up to 90 degrees. Now, complementary angles The only ones we have that we can really see up there are angle 3 and angle 4. They make that box there that's showing there. Supplementary angles. Those are angles that add up to 180 degrees. Now again, like linear pairs, supplementary angles have to be pairs. So it can only be two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Again, 1, 2, 3, those add up to 180 degrees, but there's three of them. So only two can do that, which means that only angle 5 and angle 4 can be supplementary angles. Vertical angles up there, if you look, we need two straight lines that cross. Do we have two straight lines that cross each other? A lot of people are going to say that this line right here is straight, but that's not. I had to go on a little zigzag there. So those two angles are not the same. So do we have any vertical angles? None. We have no vertical angles. And last but not least, adjacent angles. There's a ton of them up there. Angle 1 is adjacent to angle 2. Angle 2 is adjacent to angle 3. Angle 3 is adjacent to angle 4. Angle 4 is adjacent to angle 5. Angle 5 is adjacent to angle 1. And we can go backwards the same way. So all of those would be adjacent. So you can go around this way to be adjacent. Remember, adjacent angles is just naming two of them. Or we can go back around this way and start there to all of those. Either way, it'd be the same as long as they're the ones that are right next to each other. I'm not going to go over this example just because I feel like you guys can do that one yourselves. Let me know if you have questions on it. And on this one, again, you know what? I will probably do this one real quick for you guys. Show you how fast it's going to be. Angle A and 142, they're supplementary. They're linear pairs, so they add up to 180. That means that these two have to add up to 180. That means it's going to be 38 degrees. If we look at these two angles here, they are vertical angles. They're across from each other. That means that they're the same, which means that C is going to equal 142 degrees. And again, with B and A, they're vertical angles, which means that B is going to equal 38 degrees. All right, let's go over to the left here. 53 and E, they're vertical angles. Notice that? So E is going to equal 53 degrees. I know that E and F added together is going to equal 90 degrees. They're complements, so I need to figure out, well, what plus 53 equals 90? Well, it's 47 degrees. And by 47 degrees, I do mean 37 degrees. My fault. Sorry about that. And F and D are also vertical angles, so that means that that's going to equal 37 degrees. That answers all the questions over there. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. All right, this next page I'm going to go over quickly, but I do want to show some algebraic problems. First thing is we know that this makes a straight line. So we know that those angles are supplementary, and they're also linear pairs because they're on the same line there. So we know if they're supplementary and linear pairs that they add up to 180 degrees. Don't forget my x. They're going to equal 180 degrees. Combine our like terms, we get 19x minus 10 equals 180. Add 10 to both sides, we get 19x equals 190. Divide by 19. So ahead of myself there, and x equals 10. Now it doesn't say that we have to plug it in and figure out anything else, but I'm going to plug it in anyways just to make sure we get this right. So we get 7 times 10 minus 3. Well, that'd be 70 minus 3. It's going to equal 67 degrees. Over here, we're going to have 12 times 10 minus 7. 12 times 10 is 120, minus 3 is 113. Add those together, and we indeed do get 180. So we found the right x. Perfect. I'm going to do one more here for you. I want you to notice a couple things. We have a lot of different things going on here. We have two variables. That's scary. But we also have linear pairs, vertical angles. So we can solve all of this. The x and the y's, well, we can't set those two equal to each other right there. We know they're equal because they're at vertical angles, but we can't find that. But what we can do is we can look at these two. They are linear pairs. That means they add up to 180 degrees, just like we did in that last problem. So now we have to do a solve for that. So 11x plus 26 equals 180 minus 26. So we get 11x equals 154. Divide by 11 and we get x equals 14. Now we have to go plug that in over here. So we get 3 times 14. That's going to equal 42. And we get 8 times 14 plus 26. which equals 138, which works out perfectly because 138 plus 42 does equal 180. But now we have to figure out our y. So we figured out our x, now figure out our y. All we have to do is 5y plus 38 equals, and we don't even need to worry about the 8x plus 26 because we know it equals 138. So subtract the 38, so we get 5y equals 100, which means that y equals 20. Figured out our x and our y. I'm not going to do example 6 for you guys. I'm going to let you guys try that one on your own. Feel free to let me know if you have questions. We're going to stop there for this video.